Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full Fallout Season 2 Episode 4 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references from the game, so we'll break it all down. We got a bunch more lore flashbacks to learn more about Cooper's backstory before the Great War. We learn more about the aftermath with the Brotherhood of Steel and more teasers for Mr. House. The episode title was The Demon in the Snow, a reference to the pre-war Deathclaw that we see during Cooper's war flashbacks to the Alaskan front. They literally look like demons, and the irony is that they were created by the US military. Yet another example of the people who are supposed to be the good guys creating some of the worst stuff that you run into in the games and on the show. That is kind of the vibe with the reveals of the Fallout games and the Fallout TV show. Like, who did all this? Who did all these terrible things? Well, it was really all the people that you were supposed to put all your trust into. All the corporations, they're the real evil people. And also the US military, the US government, also kind of evil too. But the opening scene starts directly in Cooper's flashback to the Alaskan front during the Sino-American War, which was the big war before the Great War, like before the actual bombs against communist China. That's why everybody references the Reds on the comms during his flashback. Then in all the other flashbacks that we've seen, people are always talking about the commies. And we saw the fake commies that Mr. House and Hank were experimenting on in the other vault too. These are all the Chinese communists that Cooper runs into in this episode that they're fighting the war against. The US is fighting the war against. Cooper himself, we've known, has been a war veteran fighting for the United States. Flashback also meant to pay off the episode 3 during Charlie's ceremony at the Veterans Parade, where they talk about how he got his medal saving Cooper's life during the Alaska engagement. We basically see like the first part of that before Charlie comes along and saves him, also killing a couple other people. But it's also meant to be a payoff on that too, like the communists don't get killed by Charlie, they actually get killed by the Deathclaw, and the irony there is that it's also something that was created by the US military. We come into the shot from above, we see the flying craft here. It's a saying that the units the Brotherhood of Steel are using in present day of the show, they were created by the US military before the Great War. The Brotherhood finds and collects all technology, weapons, armor, vehicles after the Great War. We see Cooper in his T-45 power armor. It's malfunctioning, which he complained about to the West Tech employee during Season 1. West Tech creates the power armors. He said he lost a lot of his squad mates during this engagement, during this part of the war, because of power armor defects, which they reference heavily during this part of the flashback. When we see Charlie walk up in his power armor, the USMC letters on the front are for the United States Marine Corps. They're members of the Marine Corps. His power armor also malfunctioning. They're looking for their other squad mate, their third squad mate. I think this is also meant to set up the whole Deathclaw reveal too, because technically the Deathclaw is on their side, but it's kind of this engine of chaos that they lit on, like almost uncontrollable, which we'll talk about in a second. But they think the reason why they can't find their squad here, their missing people, is because they've also turned back because their T-45 power armors are also probably defective. When his CO tells him to just continue looking for their third squad mate, he lies and tells Charlie to retreat to try and save his life, and seems like he's ready to die, like he's ready to sacrifice himself here. And it's meant to be an example of how selfless Cooper used to be before the war when he told Lucy that he used to be just like her. Charlie mentions Cooper's wife before he takes off, and then Cooper sees the Deathclaw, but he's not quite sure what's going on. Like, he doesn't seem like he's part of the inner circle in any way. He doesn't know what the US military has been doing experimenting with the Deathclaws. Like, this is the first time he's actually seen one in the wild. Then the communists wind up getting him unawares and taking him out because his defective T-45 power armor. And also, ironically, he is then saved by the Deathclaw who kills the communists, although there are a couple interesting things that they mention before they get killed. You notice the Chinese soldier tells Cooper that pretty soon the Chinese military will have them all wearing the power armors too, and jokes about the escalation, like, you get more powerful armor, we'll get more powerful armor, and it'll just keep going, escalating from there. Basically building towards nuclear proliferation, mutually assured destruction kind of idea. And it's also meant to foreshadow what will eventually happen with the Great War, and a nod to Vault Tech, West Tech, who actually makes the power armors. West Tech makes the power armors. All the other corporations would eventually be supplying the communists too, because they'd have to get their power armors from West Tech. And the real big reveal of the Fallout series, just in general, is that it's the corporations who are the actual villains, basically playing both sides against each other in this particular war, the Sino-American War. But they're also the ones that conspired to drop the bombs on the entire world anyway later in the timeline. The whole idea is that the corporations do not care about any side in this, they just want to profit off of it. Deathclaws were a species of genetically engineered reptilian creatures originating from experience by the US government to create a superior battlefield soldier capable of carrying out high-risk search and destroy missions in place of humans, basically replacing humans. And in the wake of the Great War, they basically escaped into the wild and they begin to proliferate, their population booms, and they become this apex predator amongst the wasteland. To make the Game of Thrones comp, they're like the White Walkers type of force, like this uncontrollable force that one of the sides, in the case of Game of Thrones, it was the Children of the Forest that created the White Walkers to try and win the war against the First Men, but then they lost control of the White Walkers, and you get to the Long Night and all the stuff that happened because of that. And even though the US military created the Deathclaws to help their side, it almost winds up killing Cooper too. The reason why it doesn't is because of its conditioning, its bioengineering, but eventually by present day, when they run into the Deathclaw later in the episode, the idea is that they've lost that conditioning and Deathclaws don't care, they'll kill anything that moves. This time, the custom Fallout title is in ice and snow for the battlefield itself in Alaska, and we jump back to present day in the aftermath of Maximus killing Xander Harkness. Thaddeus tries to act like it's business as usual. Nothing weird going on here, everybody back to work. They mostly use the Brotherhood storyline for comedy, which is kind of what they've done all season long. Like, there are a lot of purely comedic storylines. The rest of the Brotherhood shows up, tracking them, and trying to think on his feet. Maximus tries to come up with the plan to save the day, but this also meant to set up the moment later where he tells Quintus that he never actually has any plans, like he just kind of stumbles along and makes it up as he goes, trying to survive. And that's basically what happens with this plan here. Like, it's a terrible plan, but ultimately it all winds up working out. One of the first big jokes, though, is that his initial plan, like when he's thinking on his feet here, is that he tries to get Thaddeus to do the same thing that he did, that Maximus did in Season 1, jumping into the power armor and pretending to be someone else, in this case pretending to be Xander, to try and avert a civil war with the Commonwealth. And even though it is an absolute terrible plan, and Thaddeus is an even worse liar than Maximus is, like he's terrible at pretending to be Xander, technically we can say that their plan was successful because he is not found out, like Thaddeus is not found out to be a fake. Generally, their whole situation is just like a slow-moving disaster, and you don't need to be a genius to kind of figure out which way this is headed. But this was probably my least favorite storyline in this particular episode. All the Lucy Ghoul stuff was great, though. I feel like a lot of that made up for a lot of the weaker storylines this week. Thaddeus also makes a couple other light references too in the background, like a couple references across the episode in general, but I think that Thaddeus believes that he is turning into a ghoul or he is a ghoul himself, but I think that most of us are in agreement who are watching the episode, like us viewers, believe that he's turning into something else like a super mutant or maybe even a centaur, like something even crazier. Either way, though, the Brotherhood would view him as an abomination. Doesn't matter what he's turning into anything, boom, abomination, kill him on sight. Maximus's whole line, sometimes running away is the best thing you can do and sometimes it's not, is also meant to set the funny WTF twist with the way the storyline ends at the end of the episode with them actually running away. Like, okay, now it is time to run away. Also run away with the fusion core. Lucy then wakes up at the NCR base on the outskirts of town. The Ghoul saved her from the Legion. There are 3 of them. There was a question last week as whether or not there were 3 NCR troopers or just 2 of them. They mentioned Shady Sands again, where their squad is from. Lucy was literally there in Season 1 with Maximus, who was also there when she was younger with her mother after she escaped Vault 33, like ran away with her away from her father, Hank, and took her to Shady Sands, which is the whole reason why Hank blew it up with the other nuke, which we saw earlier this season. There are a couple real awkward conversations that Lucy has with the NCR troopers about this, where they start referencing Shady Sands, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm looking for somebody important who's done some terrible stuff. The Ghoul spends most of this conversation making fun of her, but not giving away her secret to the NCR, like he doesn't sell her out to the NCR. Part of the idea is that I think she feels a little bit of guilt over what happens to Shady Sands after she learned the actual truth, that it was her father who blew it up with the other bomb. Even though technically it is not her fault at all, like she was just a little girl, she had no responsibility in this at all. It was her mother that broke away and left, and then it was her father that actually blew it up. But they do use her conversation with the NCR to just reiterate the idea that she believes that she can fix her father, redeem him in some way, and there's some justice to be had without having to kill him. But I think that we'll see by the end of the season, and you start to get little peeks of it during this conversation, that she will not feel the same way anymore. Like, Hank will just continue doing more and more irredeemable, messed up things, mostly this season through his mind control chip experiments. That's kind of what the show has been doing with the Hank character so far through season 1 and season 2. Like, what other messed up things, what more messed up things can we make Hank do that will make people hate him even more? There's also a brief moment here where Rodriguez tries to recruit Lucy to the NCR, setting off her conversation about Hank, trying to not reveal the truth about her father. And you also notice while she's talking to them, she messes with her hair a little bit, and you get a better look at her repaired finger from season 1. Ella Purnell actually said in real life she calls this her poop finger. Not really important for the story, just a funny fact in real life. When Rodriguez references the NCR's mission to bring justice to the wasteland, the whole irony of their group is that despite having noble intentions when it was originally founded, eventually it drew a lot of the same criticisms of the pre-war American government and military. So I think it's just meant to be a nod to the idea that all the different factions start out with the best of intentions and go full Dark Knight over time. Like, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And there are many, many villainous groups, factions in the Wasteland. Although if you're comparing factions in the Wasteland, the NCR is one of the nicer ones. The Legion is probably a good example of one of the worst factions. Lucy then grabs the guns, which come in handy later against the Ghoulified Kings when she goes on her little trip. She also then ironically points out that the reason why she chose not to join the NCR, or one of the main reasons, is because they looked like just another group of matching jackets like her fellow vault dwellers, and to her, that'd be kind of like taking a step backwards, not forwards with her life. Her destiny does not lie with one of the factions we've seen so far. She's more of a loner, kind of like the Ghoul, and it's also, I think, meant to be a reference to her and the Ghoul rubbing off on each other a little bit, like the Ghoul is a loner. We go back to one of Reg's group activities, rife with snacks. Reg gotta have his snacks. They mention the water cooler is empty, a problem that they were dealing with in episode 1. It's literally one of the first problems you have to solve in the Fallout games. Find a new chip to fix the water supply. And notice that Reg does not tell the woman about the larger problem, but he does get into a big fight with Betty and implies that there's going to be open revolt.
Because the products of inbreeding community hasn't had a voice until now.
Just another storyline on the show that's teasing another civil war. There are a couple more later during this episode that they tease. There's a Brotherhood civil war, a Vault civil war now, and we just witnessed the Legion civil war. We go back to Cooper and Lucy, who at the outskirts of New Vegas, they're like on the city limits here. He jokes with her about being addicted to drugs because of the ones they use to treat her wounds. When he gives her the buff out, that's actually a common drug that appears in the Fallout games. It's meant to increase strength, reflexes, endurance, and before the war, it was used as a performance enhancer. Which is also why Lucy feels so juiced up later in the episode and so gung-ho to just jump into the mouth of madness. So Lucy is good to go. Sign her up for the Wasteland Olympics. Maximus and Thaddeus then make it back to Area 51. Dane figures out immediately what they've done, which also happens with Quintus's storyline too. Like, he also knows exactly what's going on before Maximus reveals anything to him. Maximus and Thaddeus just absolutely terrible at lying. Maximus then explains his plan to Dane to kill Quintus and try to avert a civil war with the Commonwealth, but part of the idea here too is that his plan doesn't really seem like an actual plan, which he then admits to Quintus later. I never had a plan, I just make things up as I go along, basically. Dane winds up being the actual person to come up with a real plan. We get a little bit of Norm's group from Vault 31, and it's mostly used for comedy like previous episodes as well too, like another comedic storyline. In the background on the wall, you can see the graffiti, "Everyone is gone." That's meant to be an Easter egg for a holotape that you find in the games. Ronnie then starts mentioning Phase 2 of the Vault Tech plan and saying that he was Bud's personal assistant, and implies he's going to become a bigger problem for Norm in the future, like Norm will have to kill him if he can't deal with him. There are a couple other interesting name drops too. When he mentions Future Enterprises Ventures, that's actually code for FEV, as in Forced Evolutionary Virus. So one, Ronnie is an idiot. He's probably mistaken about what he thinks he heard before the bombs in the Vault Tech meeting. But also, it's the show teasing more Forced Evolutionary Virus, meaning that we might see some super mutants this season, or at least one super mutant. He mentions Bud's Vault Tech grand plan for Vault 32 and 33. They were part of a eugenics experiment that Bud was putting on to create a race of super managers, basically, through eugenics. Basically, Bud's idea is that eventually his race of super managers would take over the future at some point. That is basically what Ronnie is talking about when he's talking about Phase 2, or what he thinks Phase 2 is all about. Betty and Steph then talk about Norm's escape from Vault 31 and all the other Vault-Tec employees. Both Betty and Steph are meant to be pre-war Vault-Tec employees, like people who were part of Vault 31 and then were introduced into the populations of Vault 32 and Vault 33 at some point. And it kind of seems like Steph is glad that Bud is gone, and she just enjoys being in charge of people. Like, she gets a power trip here. She gets off on all this. And they tease a civil war between Vault 32 and Vault 33. And Betty doesn't want to have anything to do with Vault-Tec's original plan. She just wants to help save the people in Vault 33. So we have another brewing civil war potentially between Vault 32 and Vault 33. And Betty was already dealing with the revolt because of the snacks. There are a couple of funny moments here too with Steph's character. When she mentions doing all this for her baby, the real joke is that she probably doesn't care about her child at all. She's already pawned it off on Chet to take care of. She mentions wanting Hank's special keepsake box that he had with him before the bombs that he brought into the vaults. What is the personal thing inside it though? What do you think is inside that? Part of me wonders if this is going to be another MacGuffin with a funny payoff, like it won't be some huge life-changing device or secret. Then this whole subplot with Woody overhearing them talking about a vault experiment in potential civil war, I think is just teasing more chaos. Like, he goes to talk to Steph about it, and she tries to pass it off like it's no big deal. Like, oh, thank you for reporting myself to me. If I do anything weird in the future, just come report it to me. Basically, this whole storyline is just teasing that Vault 32 and Vault 33 will erupt into abject chaos by the end of the season. Probably the rest of the other Vaulties here learning the secret that they didn't know before. Like, there's some who are from Vault 31 who already know the secret, and some that do not know the secret yet. Lucy and Cooper make it to the edge of New Vegas, the city gates here to the Strip, meet the Ghoulified Kings, who are also from the games. He gets wary and wants to take them through a detour through Freeside where they could get more supplies, a safer location, which is also from the games. But Lucy wants to charge in the front gate, so to speak, because they're so close to her father in the Lucky 38 casino, Mr. House's casino, which he also clocks to. Like, he looks up at the tower because he remembers meeting Mr. House in the tower before the war. We will probably see that in flashbacks because we've actually seen scenes of that in the trailers, but it just haven't happened in actual episodes yet. The whole reason why Cooper doesn't want to just charge through the Strip immediately, like take the shortcut to Mr. House and to Hank, is because he's worried about the Deathclaws, because he sees the Securitron robots that have been absolutely trashed, and the Ghoulified Kings don't seem like they're the ones that did the damage. My assumption at this point is that he doesn't know that it's the Deathclaw that did it. Like, he's surprised by the Deathclaw when he comes face to face with it at the end of the episode, but he just thinks that something more powerful, more dangerous is running around New Vegas. So he's just trying to be more cautious, as opposed to Lucy, who's all hopped up and just wants to rush into the mouth of madness. And we get what is probably one of the most fun scenes with Lucy that we have had in a long time, where they're just absolutely ripping the Kings to shreds. R.I.P. to all the Kings. When she goes full Rambo and starts her montage, the music song that they play over it is called Cocaine Blues, very apropos. Cooper seems like he is impressed, like he's loving every minute of this show. Lucy also gives him a thumbs up when she's done, a move that he himself popularized before the war. Lucy doesn't know that the ghoul is Cooper, though. She's probably just doing this because she's seen Cooper's films and his commercials that he did for Vault-Tec before the war. We go back to Area 51 to show Thaddeus is absolutely failing trying to pretend to be Xander, inadvertently learning that all the other chapters are trying to form alliances behind their backs, and everybody seems like they want to kill Quintus. The Yosemite Elder mentions Maclean again. Maybe we'll see him on the show this season or next season. We'll see. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they have not introduced on the show yet. They have from the games. Maximus then absolutely fails at killing Quintus and admits to killing Xander, and also admits to having absolutely no plan and just making things up as he goes along. Basically just trying to do whatever he can to survive at any different moment, just reacting to different things at each moment. And it winds up actually being Dane to save both of them, both him and Thaddeus, by stealing the fusion core, which sets off a little mini civil war between all the other factions. Also giving us the WTF payoff on his comedic line to Thaddeus from earlier, that now is time to run. Like, sometimes you run, sometimes you don't run, but now is the time to run like hell, also with the fusion core. The interesting thing about this storyline too is that we'll probably see him reunite with Lucy by the end of the season, and if you think about the lore of Fallout, especially Fallout New Vegas and Mr. House actually wanted the fusion core before the Great War, before the bombs went off, but he was never able to get it. And what if Maximus makes his way to New Vegas with the fusion core? It will then pay off Mr. House getting his hands on the fusion core. How convenient is that just like running out of frame, why don't you run towards New Vegas? Then they end the episode with Lucy and the Ghoul walking down the strip, coming face to face with the Deathclaw. So everything here, like all the shops, all the clubs, are all right out of the games. Like this is meant to be very game accurate. So there's more signage for the Lucky 38 Casino, more Mr. House teasers. Cooper also clocks the top. We will see how long it is before they actually go into the Lucky 38 Casino in present day. But we will probably see it in flashbacks pretty soon too.
As I know everything.
When Cooper detects the radiation signature, that's probably Mr. House's nuclear missiles underneath the city. Like he has his own stockpile of missiles, which we saw in the silo in the end credits for last week's episode. Then you notice the Deathclaw reveal here is the first time we've seen Cooper be afraid all season, and he is terrified. We get another okie dokie from Lucy, and over the end credits, they actually show a combination of the interior of the NCR base here. It's meant to be Camp Maclean, which is the largest military base in New Vegas. The gambling card's also meant to be a wink at the Lucky 38 Casino, too. When the camera starts to pan out over all the other figures too, notice the skeletons of the Legionnaire, like the Legion trooper here, and the NCR trooper, which is also a reference, I think, to the ongoing war that the Legion has been fighting with the NCR this whole time, and the idea that we haven't seen the last of the Legion, like they're reminding you of the Legion, like, oh, they'll be back. And in the background, you can actually see the New Vegas city itself and the Lucky 38 Casino. It's the tallest tower. What'll probably wind up happening here, because the Deathclaw is so powerful, is that they won't be able to kill it. They'll just spend the first part of next week's episode trying to survive and escape. But the other real big question is how many more episodes are we going to go before we actually see more Mr. House in present day, like where they explain what's going on with him in present day, and what's going on with Hank when we'll see Lucy reunite with him, because we have seen some previous trailer footage of that, but they might wait till a little bit later in the season before that actual reunion. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if there's any Easter eggs or references for the games or anything else that you spotted during the episode that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments. What'll happen is my episode 5 video will post next week after they release it. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up soon. We have more Avengers Doomsday teasers, and we have HBO's Night of the Seven Kingdoms episode starting in a couple weeks too. That'll be the other show that'll be running through January and February. Of course, I will do all the videos for that week to week, just like I did for the previous Game of Thrones series for House of the Dragon. We're also getting House of the Dragon Season 3 episodes later this year, too. Make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Everybody click here for that brand new Avengers Doomsday X-Men trailer, and everybody click here for all my Fallout episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.